President Carter, thanks so much.
Mike, thank you.
Today, we really greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
You started your remarks today by talking about this being a challenging time across the country. You referenced specifically some funding concerns happening at other schools, research concerns. There were mentions of budget cuts, budget freezes at other schools. How has Ohio State positioned itself to be in a different situation?
Well, two really good reasons. One, on the research front, our strategy for research going back even before my time was to have a much more diversified portfolio, meaning that we're not all in on just National Institute of Health or National Science Foundation, where a lot of those smaller available grants have been left out to the top 100 universities to compete, or certain universities have lost hundreds of millions of dollars in research opportunity. For example, our Department of Defense research portfolio has grown significantly, more than doubled in 3 years, and that's now our number 2 research portfolio. So we've maintained and even still grown with these reduced amount of federal dollars being available. So that's one. The second is, on a budget that's started north of $11 billion to run this institution, when you take into account the Wexner Medical Center and our academic arm here and the research arm, and now we're growing to close to $13 billion, we have inside our own finance departments searched for efficiencies. And when we gain those efficiencies, we've put those back into our revenue pot, and that's given us some financial strength. Now, we're a not-for-profit institution, so a lot of what you heard outlined today is making sure that we're taking the savings that we've made and reinvesting it back in ourselves.
How much federal money have you lost when it comes to research coming from Washington?
In the tens of millions of dollars. And I only say that without an exact number because there's litigation going on to claw back some of that money. So when you put that in the $20 to $30 million range, compare that to a $1.6 billion portfolio that's still growing, it's not a significant amount. And that's not to say that those that lost research grants and maybe not get them back, those people are impacted, and we certainly feel for them. We previously have been able to cover for a lot of those researchers. Not too sure how far we will be able to do that going forward. So we may lose some amount of research and paid researchers going forward. That could happen.
Turning to your plan for the next 10 years, you mentioned some specific targeted investments today in 6 colleges. The College of Arts and Sciences for things like chemistry, physics, psychology, and more, the Fisher College of Business, the College of Engineering, College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Sciences, the Moritz College of Law, and the College of Medicine. Why those specific schools?
Yeah. So when those schools rise to top 10, top 5 programs, when I talked about the rising tide lifting all boats, our ranking and our equivalent to all the top public institutions will also rise, and that will bring up all the rest of our other programs. So these are strategic, detailed look at these programs and see if we can get them up.
There were 3 new scholarship programs discussed today. You have the President's Scholars Program, which is, I believe, based upon test scores,
right?
ACT, SAT. You have the Buckeye Bridge, which is that new announcement, that new project, that program with Columbus State giving those transfer students a degree here for free.
Yeah.
And then students coming from regional campuses getting potentially a full degree if they meet the various qualifications. That's a lot of money for free schools, for a free degree.
Yeah.
Where is that coming from to cover the cost of that?
Well, the first thing that's really important to note here is any Ohioan that says that the cost of education is too much and they can't go, this is the answer to that question. The second is anybody that says that we're not for all Ohioans, they need to listen to the details of these scholarships. We are for all Ohioans. It's part of our land grant mission that goes back to 1862 and on the principles of which we were founded. Now, these scholarship dollars are last dollars in. So when students are Pell eligible, that Pell eligible money is still the first dollars in. So we don't have to pay for all of it. And then it's just a matter of how many students are in that under $100,000 cap that are Pell eligible and those that are not. So we've already built the funding model for this, and we know that we can afford it. And I hope that we have more students take on this so that we have to do some more, stubby pencil work and make sure we can finance this.
One of the parts of your address today that I found interesting was your commitment to veterans. Obviously, it's a personal thing for you. You have quite the decorated record yourself. What do you think the impact could be here for veterans and the initiative to make this the #1 school for veteran choice in the country?
Yeah. Veterans Day last year, I spoke at the National Veterans Museum, and I talked about how veteran-friendly the state of Ohio is. I mean, I've lived all over the country, all four corners, in the middle, and now in Ohio. And Ohio is incredibly veteran-friendly. I'm really impressed with the state of Ohio. I would not want to have a program like this with a path for veterans to come to Ohio if they didn't start here and find a place to raise their family, go to work here, if I didn't believe in that first. I also know that we have an incredibly strong and good-sized National Guard here, and then we've got flagship military installations like Wright-Patterson, just an hour north of us. So I believe that veterans need to know where they can go to an institution that they should trust. And I'm a bit of a unicorn in that regard, having had a 38-year Navy career and be able to run a large-scale institution like Ohio State. So if I'm willing to get on a screen in my fighter bomber jacket and say, I'm running this institution and we're a place for you, I think we'll attract a lot of veterans. Now, a lot of them may be online, and that means we're going to have to create more robust online programs if they want to take that. But I think the selling point for veterans is we're not going to cost you 1 penny more than your post 9/11 GI Bill money. We're going to give you a very fast track to get your degree, and we'll help you get a job.
I think you said within 3 years, right?
Yeah, if you have 10 years of military experience, I already know that we can find enough credit hours to count for at least a year of an undergraduate degree, and then you'll finish out the rest of the 3. You may even be able to do it quicker.
This is going to be a very broad question, so I apologize for that in advance. But as you look at the next 10 years and the things that are outlined today with these new initiatives for scholarships, with reinvesting in the future for Ohio State, where that money is going, with everything happening at the medical center and all the excitement there, what do you see as the biggest challenge for the university as you look ahead to what's to come?
I think in an area like Central Ohio, which is growing at a rapid rate, I mean, we're talking a potential another 1 million people by the time that Education for Citizenship 2035 ends in 2035. What does the population look like, and how is that integrated with our Wexner Medical Center? How is that integrated in a place where more people live in Ohio that want to come to Ohio State? And have we actually done the right work to make our educational experience prepare this generation for the workforce that's out in front of them in the next 5 to 10 years? That's the work that really needs to get done.
You started the address today on a very serious note, referencing there was a troubling time here in our country right now, and referring to, although not directly mentioning it, obviously referring to the assassination of Charlie Kirk out at Utah Valley University, a public university. I'm curious, given the fact that that happened on a public college university campus in front of a massive crowd of students in a very public way, what has the conversation been like here at Ohio State when it comes to the safety for campus-related events, whether or not they involve students or not? But there are many events here on campus that happen in a public space. Yeah, no, we take all that incredibly seriously. I mean, think about just more than 110,000 people that come to a football game. I mean, we think about 66,000 students that are coming all over our campus, and we're an open society. I mean, there's no locked doors to get off a high street or lane to get into our campus. So yeah, we pay attention to that very carefully. And I think for any public university, what happened a week ago is obviously more than just what it's done for the temperature of the nation. It's a wake-up call. And we have to make sure that when we do have high-profile events here, that we're doing everything we can to keep our campus safe. And we do. We're doing everything we can. Has there been any talk of what might need to change?
Well, I don't like talking about that too much because I don't want to show all the things that we do. But I'll just say that we are already investing more resources into our campus safety. It is my #1 priority. I've talked about that since the day I came here, and it will continue to be. You mentioned today principles of discourse, freedom of expression, things like that. Today, obviously, we got word of a lawsuit filed by the ACLU over the expulsion of a student named Guy Christensen. They say that his rights, First and Fourth Amendment rights, were violated after he posted some social media videos about the Israel and Palestine conflict.
What's been OSU's response to that? What do you have to say about the allegations now being made today?
Yeah, well, I really can't comment on it because it's now in litigation, so we'll let that play out. But I will just say we have always stood on the basic principles of not just academic freedom, but freedom of expression, freedom of speech. I spoke to that today as somebody that served the nation and defended the Constitution of the United States. I feel very passionate about freedom of speech and First Amendment, and I'll just stick to that.
There are those who might look at the protest from a while back that happened on campus, and I know the university says there were rules that were violated in terms of what happened on campus and why those students were removed at that time. For those who would look at that, though, and say this is another example of Ohio State not supporting free speech, what would you say to the critics that say there's not enough being done here to do that?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I mean, we've hosted well north of 60 events since that event happened, all without issue. What happened that night was after 4+ hours of exercising their freedom of speech with warnings every hour to say, once you get past this time, we're going to have to close it up. There was a small amount of students that said, no, we're going to stay here, and there was clearly an intent to encamp. And it wasn't that I really am bothered by them wanting to encamp if they want to be peaceful. It's that I can't protect them. The rules are that we can't protect you overnight. And what's interesting, as we look and fast forward at things that have happened on the UCLA campus, the NYU campus, Columbia, all of those campuses today, when encampments started to come up again, they stopped them. So everybody pretty much followed suit in the way that we handled that. Hey, listen, the last thing I want to do is ever arrest a faculty or a student. That's why we give them so many warnings. And once they say, no, we're going to do this, it's clear that their only response was, please arrest me. And, sometimes people don't want to be arrested. And, I would just say there was a very proportional response. Our security people used an incredible amount of restraint that night. There was no bullets, no pepper spray, no batons. A lot of stuff was misreported about what happened that night, and none of that was there. Do I wish that event hadn't happened? Of course. But we've had really, really good response for how to express yourself ever since then.
You mentioned today a hiring initiative for faculty. I believe $100 million being put towards that effort to bring in some of the best and brightest from across the country.
Yeah.
At the same time, you have this situation with Senate Bill 1 coming in from the State House that puts some changes in place, multiple changes, particularly when it comes to faculty, prohibiting faculty strikes, things of that nature. There's obviously requirements in there for what happens in the classroom in terms of the discussions and the ideas that are presented. Do you think that what's coming in from the State House could have a negative impact on the pursuit here to bring in faculty from other places?
Yeah, well, I certainly hope not. If somebody does their homework and talks to our faculty as we start to live in this post-Senate Bill 1 era, I think they'll find that there's still a lot that faculty still are able to do. They're still allowed to teach the courses that they teach. They're still allowed to use academic freedom in the classroom, which means they can speak on topics related to the topic they're teaching. What they're not allowed to do as a result of Senate Bill 1 is force an opinion on a student on a controversial topic. That's what they're not allowed to do. And I would argue they shouldn't have been doing that before. I mean, that's not what we do in a classroom. We're allowed to have a discussion and not necessarily to agree on things. But if we're taking a theory and we're forcing it on a student and saying this is the only way to think about it, then that's a challenge for this. And I think that's what came out of Senate Bill 1 in terms of that regard. I think we'll be able to attract a lot of faculty to come here. And again, some of that faculty money is to retain our best faculty here too.
There are people who are sending their kids here to Ohio State from all over the country, from all over the state. They are not well versed in Senate Bill 1. I looked at what the university has put out today, which is a very detailed timeline in terms of what's happened and when. Can you just give a quick update on where the implementation is at and what's changed here at Ohio State because of SB 1?
Yeah, a lot, because we wanted to make sure that we put out everything that complies with the law. All that work was done before the law went into effect on June 27th. A lot of our faculty and our staff, and of course many of our students, were not here.
This happened last time.
Automatic lights. You can pick it back up wherever you
Yeah, so, implementation of something that far-reaching took a lot of work, and we've done that work. Now we're spending a lot of time communicating and educating our faculty, staff, and students to understand all those pieces and parts. So that's what you're seeing right now. And of course, it's all public-facing as a public institution. We're very transparent on everything that we're doing. So I'm proud of the way our team has responded. And as you probably know, there's a lot in Senate Bill 1 that doesn't take effect for some period down the time. The required course, the public-facing syllabus, all those details. So, what I would tell you is we're underway and the implementation is in place. We're following the law.
And there's a committee here on campus dedicated specifically to that, correct?
We put together a tremendously sized committee across with faculty and students, did amazing work to do this, especially for an institution this size.
In response to the Trump administration directives, I know the university has announced the closure of DEI offices. What is the status of that? It's my understanding that they are closed. Can you just explain what has been closed and what's happened to the students and the faculty that were directly involved in those programs in those offices?
So we did shut down the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. There were no students let go in any of that. All of them retained employment elsewhere. We also shut down the Center for Belonging and Social Change, same status. We did have more than a handful of civilian employees that were staff that were in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. The vast majority of them were offered other opportunities and other jobs. There were some that retired and some that just didn't have a fit. So it was a very small number that actually did not retain a job. But we continue to help them to look for other employment. What's not talked about enough, though, is what replaced those organizations. So we still have organizations that are now underneath the umbrella of student success. So we are not just having organizations that were helping marginalized students. These are now organizations that are dedicated to success of all of our students. So that's there now. We stood up another office called Buckeye Commons, and that was done with student input, faculty and staff input. And that's a center that helps students with everything from resumes to help them find resources for them to experience a better life on campus. And what I'm really proud of is that the students got involved in the solution set there. So that's what's happened so far. By the way, no students have lost any scholarships. All the student-led organizations that were there before, those are all still in place and able to run. So, change is always hard when you go through this. And it was very unpopular when we went through that, and people are settling into it.
When it comes to what's been going on over at the athletic department and the ongoing situation with Dr. Richard Strauss, have you seen the Ohio State documentary that HBO put together?
Yeah, I have not.
Are you concerned at all about how that might impact how viewers see Ohio State and its commitment to athlete safety and how athletes are handled here on campus?
Yeah, well, I've said this publicly before, and I feel very bad for the victims of those events. We've provided a lot of resources for them, and of course we tried to settle previously, but there's still litigation going on, so I'm very careful to not talk too much about it. The people that need to inform me based on what's coming to decisions to us, they have seen that documentary, and they are the ones that give me that information that I need to have for any decisions that are going forward.
As you look ahead to the year that's to come, what else would you like to talk about? What is your main focus moving ahead? I know there's this strategic plan that's in place, but what gets you most excited about what's to come?
Well, what gets me most excited is that we can change the trajectory of what higher education is in this nation. As I talked about today, the American public has said higher education costs too much, not sure about the research that's being done, and what's the return on investment. This plan answers all of those questions and would tell not just Ohioans, but people all across the country that higher education is on a better path than maybe where it was. We haven't always got it exactly right, but Ohio State can change that opinion for the future of higher education. It's going to go right through this campus.
And I think some of the criticism for higher education, at least in terms of some parts of this country and what people talk about, is there's this idea that it is all liberal. Kids will come here and they will be indoctrinated. A lot of people who are in conservative media say those things. But you've made it very clear, I think, today here in our conversation and also in your remarks earlier today that Ohio State is committed to this idea of come and learn and have a free exchange of ideas.
It is, and that's why I might have been a little bit emotional at the opening of my remarks, because I think a lot of the nation is in a dark place right now. We probably haven't been this divided in decades, and yet if we can be an institution that brings people together, where we can have a difference of opinion and still have civil conversations, civil dialogue, and still embrace our freedom of expression, our freedom of rights, enjoy what is academic freedom in the classroom, and then this idea of diversity excellence, which is really about intellectual diversity. It's really about diversity of opinion. That is what an institution like Ohio State really needs to be about.
Anything else you'd like to talk about, Mr. Carter?
No, that's good, Mike.
We appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching the ABC6 News YouTube channel, bringing you breaking news, stories, sports, and original content throughout Central Ohio. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe as well so you don't miss out. ABC6 News is on your side.